Hey everyone, welcome back to Symmetrically Fit. My name's Dustin Gotro with Symmetry Personal Training, and we've got Katie Girlinghouse with the Fit Pelvis today. So Katie, what we're going to be discussing today, basically, we're going to give everybody kind of a behind the scenes view of who we are and what we're doing as far as our training programs and our PT programs. Um, to kind of touch on the practice what you preach concept. So we're going to discuss the importance of practicing what you preach. I think that's something that everybody needs to hear. There's so many professionals out there that do not do that, and I think people need to really start paying more attention to that, making sure that the people you're taking your advice from, especially when it comes from your health, um, are people that actually believe in what they're doing, and it's not just a job. So in that realm, as far as a doctor, I would never go to a doctor and continue going to a doctor that's sick every time I come in. So to me, it's like, why would we trust a personal trainer that can't get in shape? I feel like if a personal trainer really knows how to get people in shape, we should be able to demonstrate that by doing the program that we give to our clients, not anything different. And same thing with a physical therapist for you, Katie. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not going to go to a physical therapist that's injured all the time and can't figure out how to rehabilitate those injuries. Not that, injuries are going to happen, but a physical therapist should know how to rehabilitate an injury, right?
Yeah, yeah, they should. I will say it's hard to treat yourself, but we'll talk
Yeah,
about that more, like what I do.
yeah, yeah. So just kind of to the same point, why should we trust a physical therapist that can't properly rehabilitate themselves? And my quick answer to that is we shouldn't, and we shouldn't trust a personal trainer with our health that can't get themselves in shape. We need to practice what we preach. So we're going to kind of get into it, and basically kind of pass back and forth, talking about a little more about who we are, so you guys can get to know us a little better, and give you an inside view of what we're doing personally, for our training programs and PT programs. So for those of you guys that are new or don't know us really well, just a reminder, Katie and I work very closely together. I train her and do her program design and her meal planning, and she does all of my physical therapy, as well as works on several of my clients. So we work very closely together. I think we've done a great job at integrating our programs, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely would. It's a very nice balance.
Yeah. So we've kind of put everything together, and it's been really cool. It's been an absolute pleasure, working with you. Hopefully, you feel the same, and it's I'm not too much of a pain in the butt for you.
No, not at all. And it's really nice to not have to teach my patients the things that somebody told them are wrong because they're not wrong when they come from you.
Yeah, yeah, that's been great. So, with your experience, Katie, training with me so far, in general, do you feel like I practice what I preach?
Yes. Yeah. I know often we talk about your routine and the things that you're doing and whether you're modifying an exercise because it's not feeling right that day, or you're taking a day off, or you're pushing yourself a little harder because you are feeling good that day, that week. But you're constantly in the gym doing something and trying new things and pushing your body.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Do you think?
And
Yeah.
on your end, I've seen the same thing with you. You definitely believe in what you're doing, and you do it all yourself. I've seen you have your therapist work on you, um, and your routine for actually taking care of your muscle imbalances, understanding that there's certain demands with our jobs that are going to cause muscle imbalances, no matter how in shape you get and how well alignment you have, you're still going to throw it off. And you do a great job of keeping up with that and doing exactly what you're telling me to do as your patient. So definitely the same for you. And another part I think is really cool is I've seen we've integrated a lot of your physical therapy into your training program, and vice versa. We've worked a lot of your physical therapy for me into my training program, and that's the part I think is really cool, to be able to do with clients, because I've started using a lot of what I've learned from you with my clients. So that's been a really cool thing, kind of an extra bonus benefit of all of that. So
Yeah, can I just add in there? I would say
yeah,
that's
yeah,
something really nice about working together is that I might have a patient that we're working on, say, neck stability and neck strength, but I am not doing deadlifts with them or back squats or those harder, more loaded workouts where I can teach them the basics and the coordination. And then you take that and say, okay, really functionally, when you go pick up your kids, when you go lift weights, you need to be able to activate those muscles for this exercise. And so blending those together really makes the coordination stick for harder activities.
yeah. It's funny. It's almost like when we had that first meeting, if you remember, at the coffee shop before we started working together, and I mentioned that I never could understand why personal trainers won't work with physical therapists with their clients. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember telling you, it's the stupidest thing to me, because it makes sense to work together. We both have
Yeah.
different parts of the puzzle. It's almost like it was designed to be this way.
Yeah, right?
But apparently, a lot of people just haven't figured that out yet. So hopefully, we're starting something that other professionals out there will pick up on, and start kind of putting all this together, because it's been really cool.
Mhm.
So let's talk about injuries for a minute. We'll kind of spend some time on this topic. So for you, Katie, how often would you say in general you get injured, and then how do you deal with it when that happens?
Yeah, so I would say like new injuries not that often. You know, once or twice a year like something comes up. And I, you know, do the immediate things like, all right, I want to keep moving. I want to make sure that I'm addressing any like soft tissue or joint restrictions. And sometimes I can do that myself. And sometimes I will have one of my like PTs, I'll work with them. Yeah, so I want to address if there's any dysfunction, I'm going to address that first, but I'm going to keep moving. I'm not going to just completely stop everything. And then the other piece is I have had a hip SI and foot injury going on for 7 years since I had my first kiddo, and I have worked on it myself. I have had multiple PTs work on it. I've gotten to the point where I had no pain and I was doing great, but then I wanted to start working out, and that pain has come back since we've been working out. And so with our workouts, we've had to adjust and say, all right, I'm not ready for this exercise because I don't have enough strength here, but I can do this to build up to that. Or
Mhm.
I can modify this a little bit by changing my hip position, my foot position, so that I can continue gaining strength and building up the stability that I need to do those exercises. Um, but did I answer that question? I kind of went off.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay.
Um, I want to just quickly touch back to, you mentioned that sometimes you'll have situations where you need to have one of your therapists work on you. Um,
Hmm.
Something I just thought of, we definitely need to do a podcast on this, but I would imagine if it's something like dry needling, you probably don't do that yourself, or do
I
you?
do not do that myself. I've done it once and I got the needle in and then I panicked and couldn't get it out.
All right, so that's one you pass to another therapist to do for you.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, just make a note of that, everybody. I definitely want to do a podcast episode, talking about dry needling. I'd love to learn more about it myself. I've seen great
Hmm.
results, and it's really cool. So that'll be for a later date. So
Yes.
sticking with the topic of injuries for a minute, this is where I'm going to kind of open myself up a little bit, for people to judge me, but that's fine. Um, I, you know this as well as anybody with my training program. I do see quite a bit of tweaks and strains and even some actual injuries here and there. Um, but what's interesting about it is you'll hear a lot of trainers, use the old cliche thing of um, do what I say, not what I do, and that's always bothered me when trainers say that because it's you shouldn't be doing what you wouldn't have a client do. That's not practicing what you preach. But in my situation, as you guys know, I'm trying to gain as much weight as possible, as much muscle mass as possible. Um, to do that properly on the level that I'm trying to do it, there's a risk involved. There's a lot of heavy lifting. Some of it's a little bit overtraining. There is a risk of injury, and I know that. Now, I would never go straight to training anyone like this, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do it. If someone came in and the only thing that mattered to them was gaining muscle mass and they were really into it, it was really important to them, and they're able to express to me why it's actually important, and I agree with the motives and I agree with them doing it. As long as they understand the risk involved, I will train someone this way. But you have to understand the risk involved that you're going to be lifting heavier than you probably should. So I don't see, I feel like a lot of people see me get the tweaks and strains and chronic pain here and there and think, oh, he's not doing what he preaches. But I don't see it that way. Again, I know the risk involved. I'm not doing anything wrong per se. I'm doing all the right things to reduce the risk of injury as much as I can to reach the goals that I have. In a way, I do see that as practicing what I preach. I would train a client this way if they have the right goals and the right motives for those goals. So if y'all see me walking around funny because my back's sore, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do, I promise. And Katie, you know
I
as
think,
well as anybody, I do my rehab.
yeah, I know you do. Like, he does great. You do great. Like, being consistent with your rehab, prepping your body for those heavy lifts, and taking care of yourself afterwards so that you can keep doing the thing you want to do and work towards your goal. I think this is no different than saying, like, I really want to be good at this sport, or I want to play that, or do a certain activity that might come with your body having to adjust and learning new things, and things are sore and you're maybe hurting because you're using those muscles in a different way, or your joints aren't used to moving in that way. That doesn't mean that that sport is bad. It means that your body is not quite ready for it, and you need to do some things to adjust to that activity. And that may be strengthening, that may be modifying the exercise, it may be um, dosing, where you're not playing that sport for 4 hours a day, you're playing it for two and giving yourself a rest day. There's a lot of different ways to handle that, but I don't ever expect anybody to be pain free forever.
Yeah. Yeah, and sports is a great example of that. Every sport has its injuries and has its muscle imbalances, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with it. If you have a passion for it and you love what you're doing, then that's what matters to you. So I think you should do that. What's important is I think we just have to spend the time fixing the muscle imbalances and reducing risk of injury as much as possible, which is kind of the realm that you and I are both in.
Yeah.
So, Katie, what's your daily and or weekly physical therapy routine look like for yourself?
Yeah, so this is something that um I don't, I was, I don't always like sit down and do, here's my 10 exercises. I'm going to do these every single day, because that isn't as sustainable for me. So I kind of break them up and I do them throughout my day. And a lot of the things that I am working on are also things that integrate really well with my day. So with my shoulder, I tend to sit with the shoulder really forward, and I'm working and I'm doing a lot of hands-on activities. Well, instead of me making a whole separate exercise, all I have to do is think about that activity while I'm working. So if I'm working on a patient, I notice the shoulder coming forward, I'm going to cue it. I'm going to activate those muscles, pull that shoulder back. Now this becomes an exercise during my workday. It's the same, like if you sit on the computer all day and you're here, your exercise could be just as simple as setting an alarm for every 15 minutes and rechecking your posture and bringing yourself back up. And then you're going to sink down and you're just going to you're going to correct it repeatedly throughout the day. There are things that I do every time I work out though. We're working a lot of ankle mobility because my right ankle is really stiff. And so before my workout, I'm getting in some soft tissue work. I'm getting in some joint mobilization, and I'm doing that before my workout and sometimes also after. So that's to say, like, everything doesn't have to be a list of things that you do and it takes more time. I kind of mix and do different things different ways depending on what I need from that and how I can work it in my day. But it's really hard to sit in the floor and roll your calves while you're treating patients. So that doesn't work.
Yeah.
um, and then I would say my you're just talking about PT, right? So yeah, with just my exercises. Yeah, so they kind of look different depending on the exercise, depending on where I'm at and what I'm working on. What about you?
Awesome. Well, you couldn't have answered that any more perfect to lead me into what I want to talk about. Um, and I promise you guys, this was not scripted this way, but it goes perfect. So you bring up a great point, and I see this a lot with clients. So first, I'll talk a little bit about my routine. So I am completely opposite. My brain works different. As a lot of you know, I've always struggled with anxiety. I'm always working on things that can help me learn to deal with anxiety as opposed to taking medication for it. I'm very big on that belief. Well, for me, I have to have every single thing of my entire day scheduled very, very structured. So where what I'll see a lot of times with clients is, everybody's brain works different, everybody's schedule is different. So I have a lot of clients like you, Katie, that you kind of just have to work it in throughout your day. And I want to make it clear, I don't see this as like a right or wrong thing. I think everybody has to find a way to fit it into their lifestyle. And that's a mistake I think a lot of people make is they'll look at, the structured version of what I'm doing and think, oh, well, if I don't do it that way, then it's not right. I don't let any of my clients believe that. I like to work everything around your schedule. I think the way that you do it, Katie, it's what works for you. It's how your brain works. It keeps you thinking about it all day, which is awesome, and it works with your schedule. Um, for me, if I don't structure it the way that I do, it's not going to get done. It's My brain is just so all over the place all the time that if it's not literally on my schedule and I get a reminder on my watch that, hey, it's time to stop and do this, then I just won't do it. I'll just keep going on to other things, and other things just take over the priority. So, quick explanation of what my daily looks like. My wake time is exactly the same every morning. I get up at 3:15 every morning. I'm at the gym by between 4 and 4:30. Um, Let me back up. As soon as I get out of bed, I get dressed and everything. I go downstairs and I eat my first breakfast. Then I go to the gym. I'm either working out at 4:30, or if I have a 4:30 client, I'll move my workout to later on. Typically, I'll move on to my second breakfast after that, which is at 10 o'clock, and then lunch is at 12, snack at 3, dinner at 6. And Katie, I don't change that schedule ever. Most of the time, your sessions are at 5 p.m., and I usually cut out 15 minutes early so I can eat my 6 o'clock dinner. I'm very, very strict on my routines. Um, my workouts have to move around because of my schedule, which I don't like. I like it to be at the same time, but that's just what it is right now. But my meals don't ever change; they stay exactly the same on the timing. My sleep schedule is exactly the same. Everything is super structured and in my actual schedule, because that's what works for me. It keeps me accountable to it. The reason I went through the long winded version of that is I want you guys out there to understand that we struggle with this stuff just as much as you guys. I have learned over the years of doing this that I'm not a very consistent person. I'm not disciplined enough to just do everything consistently and stay on a workout routine if it's not scheduled in my day. So I've realized I have to set up that very strict structure in order for me to be able to do it, because I'm not a disciplined person. And I think that's important for you guys to know, because everybody's different. And if you don't have a lot of discipline, if you're not good at staying on things once you start them and finishing it, um, you're more than likely the type of person that needs to set up a very strict schedule. If you don't have that problem like Katie, she's done a great job just doing it all. Now, obviously, your sessions are scheduled, but you get everything else done. So I think everybody's a little bit different, about how they kind of set up all that stuff. So let's talk a little more about meal planning. So, Katie, when we started, we set you up, with a meal plan, kind of went through it, played around with it for a few weeks, and now you're pretty much on it on your own. How strict are you when it comes to that meal plan?
Uh, when we started, I was all over the place. And I would say now I have the same thing for breakfast every morning, because I don't have to think. So I've been having the same thing for breakfast for 12 weeks, something like that. And it just means I don't have to process anything in the morning, one less decision to make. So that's easy for me. And then lunch, I will meal prep on the weekend so that I have my lunches prepared. And I also do some networking with lunch. So I'm not 100% because I'm not going to take my pre-prepared meal with me to a restaurant to meet with someone. That just doesn't work. Um, and then
Yeah,
and
don't
then
be that person.
yeah, yeah, that's not okay. But when I go to that restaurant, I try to think about, okay, what foods are going to help me get the energy that I need, help me feel good, and like like be maybe not similar foods, but similar in the macros to be able to get where I want to go. Um, so like I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah. How
Yeah.
strict are
Okay.
you on? So you do your meal planning on the weekend. Is it like a scheduled thing that you do, or do you just kind of get it done on the weekend?
I look at the schedule depending on what's happening with the kids and with my husband and our like weekend activities, and then I plan a time around that. So sometimes it's a lot of times it's Sunday afternoon because it's usually quiet and we're not doing a lot. Sometimes it's Saturday morning before anybody's up or Sunday morning. It just kind of depends. And then when I'm out of town, it's usually Monday. While I'm making my lunch, I prep for the week.
So it
So
can kind of
yeah, I'm
change
kind of
around a
all
little
over the
bit.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I do change around, but I know that in my mind, there's always like somewhere in that weekend I need to be prepping for the week. Um, so so yeah, but it does vary. And then for dinner, I have young children who are incredibly picky and don't eat anything except mac and cheese and tostadas and pizza. Um, so our dinners are kind of all over the place, and that's usually my meal that is less strict. That I have more flexibility, but I try to always add. I'm always adding vegetables, and I'm always getting a protein. Sometimes those proteins are a better nutrition resource, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes those vegetables have cheese on them, but usually
Mhm.
not. It depends. Like they just look different. But overall, I'm trying to hit those like where can I get good vegetables? Where can I get good fiber and just like clean energy sources. And then for my protein, what can I eat that is going to really give me the energy and not give me the like bloat and drag and fatigue the next day. And that's the biggest thing I notice is if I'm more consistent, I feel really good the next day and I have more energy. And when I have a day that's not as good, I'm not like, I just don't feel good. I don't have the energy and motivation. And the more tired I am, the harder it is to stick to my plan, my meal plan.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I know
again,
you are, I know you are the opposite. And again, very different the way that you schedule your routine and make it work.
yeah, very. And here's the thing: I'm not sharing all this to brag or quite honestly, the how strict I have to be. I'm really not proud of. It's more honestly, it's a little embarrassing because of the fact that I have to be this strict to actually stay in shape, to actually stick to the meal plan. I have to be this strict. I don't have any option. Now there is some other factors involved here with the condition, the nerve condition in my stomach. I don't really have the option of eating bad food, which is actually kind of helpful because there's no temptation for me to eat anything off of my meal plan because I don't feel good. Um, but yes, my meal plan, as I said, all of my meals are scheduled. They're the exact same thing every day. And, we mentioned don't be that person. Unfortunately, I am that person. Now, I won't go into a restaurant with my food, but if I'm meeting somebody and there's nothing I can eat there, I will eat in my van before I go in and then just get water and go visit. But again, I have to be that way. I don't have a choice at this point. So that's what it takes to keep me on it, to stay committed to all this. So as far as meal planning for me, again, very, very structured, very, very strict. So every Friday morning, after I finish with my morning clients, I go straight to the grocery store, get everything for the next week. I go home and immediately start cooking. Typically, by the end of Friday, all of my food for the next week is cooked and in Tupperwares and in the fridge. Saturday, as soon as I finish training my clients, I go home, I pull everything back out, I get everything all put together, all my meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. Everything gets put in meal prep containers and put in the garage fridge. So it's ready to go. So by 2, 3 o'clock on Saturday, my entire week starting Monday is ready to go. And then Sunday is my one day that I wouldn't say I cheat. I still pretty much eat on the meal plan, but there's a little bit of flexibility. I'll add some things in, or we may even go out to eat and I'll just get, a rice bowl, which is pretty much what I eat all the time anyway. So I pretty much stick to it all the time. Very, very, very structured. Um,
Can
all
we,
right. Well,
okay, so I think it's important that you said like your meal plan, your meals look different than mine, but part of that is your goals, right? Like you're trying to build muscle, you've got some gut stuff you're working on, and I'm not like I have different goals, right?
right.
And so the way that we set up our meals and the consistency and how we're eating and what we're eating don't look exactly the same, and they
Yeah.
shouldn't. And I'm not trying like for me, I am more concerned with sustainability. And if I ate the way that you ate, it wouldn't be sustainable because it just wouldn't work for me. I like with my schedule, with my kids, um I just really want a brownies and some ice cream sometimes. Um and I'm okay with that because I know, yeah, that's going to add calories, that's going to add dairy, which, is probably not going to make me feel the best the next day. But it goes back to knowing the benefits and the risks of making that decision and then choosing it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's the moderation thing, right? How much you can take without messing things up. And yeah, that's a great point because everybody everybody's lifestyle is completely different, and you have to find something. This is a lifestyle change, eating this way. So you have to find a way that you are going to be able to sustain permanently. Really, that's the
Mhm.
goal. Is let's figure out the healthiest you can eat, but keep doing it for the rest of your life. It's not a crash diet and then 3 weeks later you come off of it and go right back to what you were doing. And Ed, quite honestly, I only have two clients that eat the way I do, as strict as I do. The rest of them are like you, where they're strict on it and they're doing the right thing, but because of their lifestyle and their schedule, things have to change a little bit. We have to kind of work around that, and I think that's a great point because I don't ever want anybody to think that they have to eat as structured, as a bodybuilder. Like those guys, their goals are different. Their goals are a lot different, and your lifestyle that we build with your meal plan has to be based on your goals and what you're trying to do with your body. So yeah, that is a great point. All right, we got to pause, and I'm gonna have to cut it out because I'm about to pee in my pants.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Sorry. Okay.
All right, hopefully I don't forget to edit this part out later.
That'd be great.
That'd be a
Just
little
quiet.
odd, but oh well. Everybody's got to pee. All right, let's
Yep.
see where we're picking back up here.
They were on talking about actually doing the exercises.
Oh yeah, so you can start back up with that one.
Okay. All right, so Justin, what like we've talked about a bunch of different exercises that we've come up with for you to keep you active, keep you lifting. How important it that you do those exercises and be consistent with them?
For me, extremely. So kind of some backstory. A lot of you guys already know this. What started my career in corrective exercise was a very bad back injury. I struggled with it for years, even after I learned how to rehab it. It was more, I had to learn how to actually behave myself and do the right things and not push too hard. And so I spent many years in excruciating pain, chronic pain with my lower back. And I was a baseball player. I was a pitcher for 15 years. So I've got some shoulder issues, some elbow issues. There's a lot of transverse twisting muscle imbalances in my body. So I've got a lot of injuries, past injuries that I have to deal with. So for me to be able to train the way I want to train, the exercises we've gone over for all of those injuries, it's a daily thing for me. I cannot skip a day. If I do, I'm not able to work out the next day. So it's another thing that I've been very, very structured about. My physical therapy gets done every single day, either immediately after my workout, if I have time. Otherwise, it gets done at night before I go to bed. And it's, like I said, it's just a non negotiable for me. It has to get done every single day. Otherwise, I'm in pain. And so it's very important to me because again, I spent a lot of years in pain, and I'm finally, for the first time in 20 years, I'm not in pain daily. There's a little bit here and there that creeps up as I change up my training, but as long as I'm keeping up with those exercises, I'm able to stay out of pain. So, um, Katie, that you're the expert in this area, so talk a little bit about the importance of doing these exercises, and what do you see typically with your patients? What are the struggles?
Yeah, so yeah, like I don't give exercises just for the fun of like giving you something to do. I have better things to do and so do you. So really, yeah, I am trying to pick like 3 to 5 exercises tops, assuming I'm working on one body region, not your whole body. Then we will have more. But if we're working on, say, a shoulder injury, I want 3 to 5 exercises that are really going to help you make a difference. Between the visits, I want people to see change. I want them to get stronger, to find better coordination. And if we're not doing the exercises, then our body's going to fall back into those old motor patterns. And that's where you get stuck and the pain doesn't get better, or you have a harder day lifting, you have more back pain, and the next day you can't lift. Um, because those exercises are really retraining the joints and the muscles on how to move more effectively, and then building strength so that you can do the things you want to do. So, yeah, they are really important. That being said, I don't expect perfection from anyone. So, if I say 3 times a day, 7 days, I really don't expect you to do that, because that's a lot of time and it is involved. But there are some things where I say, the more you do this, the better results and the faster results you'll see. And then some things that once a day, 3 days a week, right? It really depends on what our goals are with that exercise. Um, Got sidetracked on where I was going with that. But yes, the exercises are important. Um, and if you're working on them to get out of pain, we want them to be focused, specific exercises for you, not just a laundry list of every shoulder exercise known to man, that takes you 2 hours to do. That's neither helpful nor doable. Um, and then while I'm on my little soapbox here, um, a lot of times I get asked, should I always have to do these exercises? Will I have to do these for the rest of my life? Yes and no. It depends on what the problem is. But for a lot of things, if we can retrain the muscle, get better coordination, and get strength, then you go use that strength for the things you really want to do, whether that's lifting weights, playing soccer, rock climbing, picking up your kids. If the muscle is now working properly and you have a good motor pattern, you don't have to do those exercises because you are using them in your life. Um, so, in my opinion, and in a lot of injuries, no, you don't have to do them forever. You have to do them long enough for that motor pattern to be changed.
Awesome. I think since you mentioned motor pattern too, I just want to throw in there, both of us work a lot with the nervous system, and we have a pretty extensive education on the nervous system and how to rebuild neural patterns. Um, that's something where, let's say somebody that works at a desk, for instance, and they have rounded shoulders and they're going to continue working at a desk because it's their job. That's one of the situations that I know I see with my clients that, yeah, you're probably going to have to work on this retraction and stretching the chest and lats, at least as long as you have that job, because you're spending, 8 to 10 hours in a bad movement pattern. Now we can work on posture and correct some of that stuff, but the reality is most people aren't going to hold perfect posture for 8 straight hours sitting at a desk. Um, so yeah, I think there are. Would you agree with that? There are some situations where it probably does need to be a permanent kind of lifestyle thing.
Yes. And I would say that is a time where changing your environment and changing your um, routine can be really helpful. So don't sit at that desk for 8 hours straight. Every hour, get up and move. Every time you check your email again for the 15th time that day, check in with your posture. But then also go lift weights so that you're strong enough to hold that posture for the time that you need to hold it. So yes, I agree with you, but and also there are things that we can do so that it doesn't have to be a constant problem. But I
Yeah.
do expect, hey, you stop doing the exercises and you're not checking in with your body and your posture and you're sitting like this, that pain is going to come back.
Yeah, yeah, and I think again we both deal a lot with the nervous system, and a lot of it just comes down to that repetition, right? It's if you can make some of the lifestyle
Mhm.
changes, you can work on your posture, you can switch to a standing desk, move around, and repeat that the right pattern to build that neural control, build those new neural pathways. That can be your version of doing it permanently, as opposed to just doing the exercises over and over again. Um, so
Mhm.
there's a lot of ways of doing it, but I think that repetition for the nervous system is the big key point there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so last topic, let's talk a little bit about sleep. This is a super important one for me that I'll talk about. Katie, what's your sleep schedule look like?
Ooh, I am usually in bed by 8:30. And I like I'm in bed kind of winding down and then I go to sleep about 9:30 and I get up at 6. Um, so I get 8 hours of sleep every night pretty consistently. Um, that is something that I have noticed. I have always needed a little bit more sleep than the like recommended amount. We only need what 6 to 7 hours as like
Mhm.
adults, which I don't always agree with those numbers, but I like there's a whole lot of conversation on that, but I I need 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get 8 hours, I start getting brain fog, I can't function, decisions get harder, and then my things that I'm working towards, my nutrition, my workouts are become that much harder to stay on track. And then once those get off, then my sleep gets off. Then I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I'm not getting quality sleep. So sleep is something that I preserve uh, a lot. Like just it is everything to me.
Yeah,
Now
and
you get up really early to work out.
I do. And I want to camp here for a little bit on the sleeping thing because you touched on a lot of really, really good points. For me, yes, I'm again very structured. But keep in mind, everybody has a different schedule. So for me, I have to be at the gym early because some mornings I have 4:30 a.m. clients. I have 7 p.m. clients as my last client every single night of the week. So because of the way my schedule is structured, I work a split schedule. So I'm only able to get, let's see, I go to bed I'm in bed at 9 every night, no matter what. In fact, my kids get mad at me, especially right now in the summer because they're staying up later. I kick them out of my room at 9 so I can go to bed. I'm sleeping by 9:30 and I'm up at 3:15 every morning. Now, for me, I do need the 7 to 8 hours. Which I'll touch on why in just a minute. But to get that, I get I think I get 5 hours. I've changed it a little bit recently, but I get about 5 hours at night. And then I come home during the day and I typically take a 2 hour nap. So I get anywhere from 7 to 8 hours sleep, 8 hours of sleep within a 24-hour period, but it's split up a little bit. That's not the best way to do it, but it's the way my schedule is and it works for me. For me, sleep, as you said, it's your nervous system has to recover, and that's when it recovers is sleep. Our body physically recovers during sleep. Our brain recovers during sleep. So it's extremely important to keep at least a sleep schedule and get enough adequate sleep for me because of my anxiety issues. So my nervous system is super duper overactive. I'm always going. I have a very hard time sitting still. I don't do well if I don't have anything to do. So I intentionally always have something to do. I keep myself busy all the time. Now, what I've learned is if I don't learn how to shut that down at some point and actually rest and recover, I'll go into hyperdrive and eventually I'll start hitting adrenal fatigue and eventually adrenal failure. which is a major issue, starts messing with all your hormones and all that stuff. So for me, I've found I have to have a very strict sleep schedule um, to be able to recover and keep my nervous system functioning properly. So it's kind of finding that balance of staying busy so that I'm not starting to struggle with anxiety, but at the same time, I've had to learn when to shut it down. Um, a lot of different tools I've had to learn to do that. But go to sleep. I have to learn, when to stop and rest. So I think a sleep schedule for everybody is extremely important. I talk to all of my clients about it. And I think the most important part of it is this is one area that I think for everybody needs to be a little more structured, even if you're not a structured person. Um, you need to go to bed relatively same time every night, and you need to wake up relatively same time every morning. Um, if you have, some kind of weird schedule like me, working a nap, but everything needs to be structured and around the same time every 24-hour period, because that's the way the nervous system works. The brain recovers a lot better if it's in an actual routine. Your nervous system knows what to expect, so you can train your nervous system. As I said, I have a lot of tools to calm my anxiety and get myself to calm down. If I don't have a strict schedule on my sleep, I won't go to sleep at night. I won't be able to shut it down. So I've trained my nervous system that at 9 o'clock, it's time to shut everything down. I put all my devices away, TV goes off, all that stuff. And I have successfully been able to train my nervous system to actually shut down when I need to. I'm still working on the naps. It's hard for me to take naps, but I need that extra sleep. So we're working on that. But the schedule for everybody, I think a sleep schedule is important. So you got to work on setting a bedtime, setting a wake time. Um,
Mm.
so I said last topic, but I actually have one more topic. Um, we'll be brief with this one though. So Katie, talk a little bit about your training schedule, resistance training and cardio. What's that look like on a weekly basis for you?
So I train with you on Mondays and Wednesday nights. And then I'm really trying, again, I'm not perfect. I'm working on getting in a third and fourth workout. So last week I did that. I worked out Saturday and Sunday. So I'm doing weightlifting 4 days a week. There is some cardio in that because I am getting my heart rate elevated. It's just not sustained. It's not as much as a like cardio workout. Um, I'm also doing a lot of studying right now. I have a test this weekend for physical therapy, just continuing education. So I'm also going on walks for like 45 minutes, an hour, many mornings or evenings while I study. So again, it's not high intensity, but I am moving. I'm getting my body moving, getting my heart rate a little bit elevated, but trying to multitask because there's only so many hours in the day. Once I'm done with that test, I really want to start working on adding in more cardio and switch that walking over to running and interval running.
Awesome. And a big point I want to make here again, the reason I wanted to share all of this and for you guys to kind of see what it's like for us doing this stuff, I want everybody to understand this stuff is not easy for us any more than it is for you. It's a struggle. Our lives are busy. We work a lot. We have kids. We have all the same excuses as anybody else does. I think a lot of people look at us from the outside and think that, oh, it's easy for them because, he's at the gym all the time or she's at the clinic all the time. But it's not. You got to remember that's our job. So when I'm there, I'm working. My mind is on working. It's hard for me to shut down from work and make myself go into my workout. For my routine, once again, very strict, very scheduled. My workouts now are having to kind of change around as to when I'm doing it, but I do not skip workouts ever. They have to be scheduled and I have to get them done. Again, back to my nervous system. If I don't work out, if I don't do something every day, my nervous system starts getting a little too overactive. So I have to kind of fatigue it a little bit every day for me to continue to be able to function on the level I have to be able to function. But it's important to me that you guys understand we're struggling with this just as much as you guys. It's not, it doesn't come easy to us. In fact, quite the opposite for me. I have never liked working out. This is the first time in my life I'm actually beginning to enjoy it. But growing up, I hated it. When I played baseball, I didn't go to my workouts. I would go and sign the sheet so I get credit for being there, but I never actually worked out. I hated it. My dad always tried to get me into it because he worked in the fitness industry. My brother, the same. And I really didn't start working out consistently like I am now until about 3 years ago. It's always been a struggle for me. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're alone in this. And, we're asking you to do something that's unrealistic, that we've never been there. We do struggle with it. It takes setting it as a priority, finding your motivation for doing what you do, and then committing to doing it. So, speaking of motivation, Katie, for you, what motivates you to do all of this stuff? Because I know we've had a lot of conversations that about exactly that. This isn't easy for us. So, what motivates you to stay on track with everything we've talked about?
Yeah, so I will say the superficial reasons. I I want to feel good in my body. I want to be able to keep up with my kids. I want to be able to be active and go hiking and go swimming and whatever, play soccer. Um, then I also like I've seen the research on what happens when you don't exercise and all of the medical conditions and different health issues you'll get if you don't exercise, and I don't want to deal with those when I'm 40 or when I'm 70 or when I'm 90. I want to be active all of that time. And then of course there's always deeper issues in there. And when uh growing up, I don't think I've ever admitted this. Growing up, my mom um was pretty active, but then stopped being active. Lots of reasons for that, but she wasn't as active, gained more weight, and my dad was constantly making comments about her body. And seeing that as a kid really affected my perception of what my body should be as an adult. Um, and so dealing with those and the things that were told from society, that you had kids and you're supposed to bounce back in 6 weeks and you need a flat stomach and you need, there's uh, all this information coming in that you're trying to process. And so there's a lot of reasons. I mean, there's a lot of things, but I would say what I try to hold on to for my motivation is when I'm 90, I want to be able to be active and walk and be healthy and feel good in my body and not be stuck in bed or in a nursing home.
That's awesome. Perfect answer. So I'm going to kind of stay on well, first of all, I do have a lot of the same, the superficial stuff. I have kids. I want to be able to keep up with them. I've been in back pain to where I couldn't pick up my kids when they were young, and that killed me. So, that's a huge motivation for me, being able to stay active with my family, reducing risk of any type of diseases as I get older, all the health problems. That's definitely a big motive for me. But for me, I'm going to stay more on the deeper side. For me, it's very, very, it's an emotional thing. So, as I said, I've never been a consistent person. I've always been one of those people that, I'll commit to something and then 3 weeks later I fall off with everything in my life. I've always been that way, and it's always bothered me. I've always, in a lot of ways, I've felt like a failure a lot of times in my life because I would plan to do something and then not get it done and then move on to the next thing. And it was like failure after failure after failure. And it got to me. So when I started to figure out this whole fitness thing and realize that, all right, if I'm going to do this, I have to build a structure that makes it easy for me to stick to it, once I figured that out and I started getting really strict with everything and seeing great results, I began to build a passion for fitness, and that's where I'm at now in my life. Is I really truly love what I do for a living and for myself personally, with my training program, and it's kind of given me my I guess self esteem back in that area, because at this point I've kind of proved to myself, okay, I can be consistent. I can commit to something. I just have to build a little bit different structure than most people do. That's my struggle. My struggle is staying consistent. So I had to plan around it, and build my lifestyle in a way that I can actually stay committed to it. So that's my motivation, is continue to prove to myself that I can do this and I can stay committed and live a healthy lifestyle, which is an area where I've always kind of felt like I've failed in the past, which makes it really hard to be a personal trainer when you feel like you're a failure in that area. So that's been a big change in the last 3 years for me, getting to that point. So that's my motivation. Um, well, Katie, do you have anything else to add? We covered a lot today.
I'm good with that. I don't have anything else.
All right, I think we hit everything. So for you guys out there, if you're kind of, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, all right, it's time for me to make a commitment and start, making some changes, and if you're ready to make a commitment to yourself, to your health, reach out to us, whether you're injured or just wanting to get in shape, whatever the thing is, reach out to us and let's get you in here and get your health on track. Like we said over and over again, we'll never ask you to do anything that we don't believe in 100%, and do ourselves. Everything we do with our clients is the way that we live. We struggle with you, we see success with you, we want to do it all together. We're all in this battle together. So take the next step, come see us, check out the description. I'll put all the details on how to get in touch with both of us. Until next week, stay healthy and practice what you preach.